Well, welcome, friends. My name is Frank Robinson, Jr. Staff here at Green Acre. I serve as the operations manager here. We are beyond excited and thankful to have you here for the first of 3 sessions on the spirit of the Black Men's Gathering, this evening being the purpose of the Black Men's Gathering. This is an outgrowth of actually the art committee here at Green Acre. If you haven't seen our new website, go to greenacre.news and please peruse our latest art show on the people of the eye. Now, we wanted to explore the themes of race amity and the special qualities given to people of color and people of African descent. And the art committee didn't want to have art for art's sake. We wanted art to open the hearts, and hopefully that would lead to discourse. We also have just discourse spaces. So when the art committee was thinking about how we could expand our show, we thought, why not reach out to Dr. William Roberts and see if he might do something on the Black Men's Gathering. So we say we're thankful because it's really Dr. Roberts, affectionately known as Billy, who pulled all these panelists together over these 3 sessions. And so we are just very gracious that they're here. The first Race Amity Conference at Green Acre was in 1927. And so it seems fitting that Green Acre has had this arch of exploring these themes of race amity and race unity. So I'm going to be quick because you're not here to see me, you're here to see these gentlemen. But I will turn it over now to Jessica Gaines, our program coordinator, who will also share with you some of what's going to happen this evening.
Hey everybody, I'm Jessica. I serve as program coordinator here at Green Acre. So lovely to see you. It looks like we have about 115 people in the room, plus all of us here on the screen. You at home, feel free to interact with us via the chat box. And if you have questions, because at the end of this presentation, there will be time for Q&A. So if you have a question, put it in the chat box. If you take your cursor and move it towards the bottom of your screen, a bunch of icons will show up. One of them is Q&A. Click on there, put your question in there. But if you just want to say, hey everybody, thanks for doing this, so glad you're here, put it in the chat box. Those are 2 separate things. So then we can actually get to your question and we can also get to your love in the chat box. So that's about all I got. I'm just so personally grateful that all these wonderful gentlemen are here. You know, growing up as a young adult, the devotional spirit of the Black Men's Gathering with its intensely present singing and praying from the soul actually had a profound influence on me and on the communities that I lived in and helped to deepen the devotional character of all of us. And for that, me and I think countless other people are truly grateful. So it's with that spirit that we welcome you all here. And with that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Roberts.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to see you all. Well, to be with you all. I can't see you, but I hope we're coming through clearly. When Green Acre reached out to ask if I would be willing to make a presentation about the Black Men's Gathering, they were really talking about it as a retrospective. And I said, well, let's consult. And so we did. We had a wonderful consultation. And as a result of that consultation, shifted from the idea of a retrospective to really talking about the spirit of the Black Men's Gathering, which is still alive and well and still influencing the Baha'i community. And rather than just one presentation where I would talk, We tried to also broaden it and include other voices from the gathering. And as you know, tomorrow we'll hear a presentation from the artistic viewpoint of individuals from the gathering who had made some contribution in tribute to Robert Hayden. And then on Sunday, a session called Community Builders. And those individuals will share some initiatives that they've started as a result of being at the gathering. So let me just start by saying the Black Men's Gathering has been really a passion of mine and something that I have really worked hard to really help to build and to direct, but never by myself. It's with a company of the friends. In 1987, as a member of the Baha'i community, I looked around and became very concerned because in this larger society, there was a lot of press about the extinction of Black men. And we also noted the number of Black men who were incarcerated outstripped the number of Black men in universities. There were many statistics like that, and the defamation of Black men was all apparent. In fact, you know, it was said in one place that Black men were more likely to be killed than those, and to die before the age of 15 than those who were living in Bangladesh. Interesting. So I looked around and I was concerned, and as a member of the Baha'i community, I was serving as an auxiliary board member then, and began to wonder, where are all the Black men in our community, and what is it that what are their concerns in the face of this these challenges that we were facing in the larger society? So I just decided independently to call together a few people who I knew and invited them to come to a meeting. And the whole purpose for the meeting was to have a conversation, to really talk about the challenges that we face, what contributions that we needed to be making to the onward development of the Baha'i community, the creation of a new world civilization, and the support that people might need. I think I invited maybe about 40, 50 people that I knew. And then of that 40 or 50 people, 12 brothers decided, yes, I'd like to come. We invited them to come to Greensboro, North Carolina. Some people say, well, you chose Greensboro because of the civil rights movement. And actually, that's not the truth. Greensboro had just opened a brand new hotel, airport, and they had very inexpensive flights there. So that's why I chose Greensboro. And we met in a little place called the Residence Inn. And that's where we stayed. And since they had a little living room, we met there, and then we began our discussions. Now, was there any rhyme or reason about who was invited? No, it was just any Black male who might be interested in joining us. Those that accepted the invitation did come with some sense of trepidation. Some were concerned, why would we be coming to a Baha'i meeting that's only Black men? Who authorized this meeting? Are we going to get in trouble? Are we breaking the tenets of our faith? All of these were questions that people came with. Some came with anxieties about being with only Black men for that weekend. And see, so they came with those anxieties and those worries. And when they arrived, we talked about the purpose. The purpose was to provide a space for men of African descent, for Black men, to really examine and think, what is our role? What contributions do we need to make? What are the possibilities for us to contribute to the development of our Baha'i community and to the world? So it was a space that was created to empower Black men and to discover together what we could contribute to this world and to this community. over time, over that brief weekend, we began really just exploring very carefully, because different people came from different places with different perceptions, different ideas, and different agendas. So we started by saying, look, let's put all the agendas aside and let's just pray. That's something as Baha'is that we all share. Let's have prayers together. And let's think together about what is it that the teachings say to us, about us and for us. And so we began by doing that. And in the process of simply praying, and some of us began to sing because we had some of the members who are singers, you know, began to sing songs, we discovered that this light began to emerge from each one of us. And all the sort of apprehension and anxiety and worry began to dissipate away, because we really felt that we had a spiritual home together and that we wanted to learn from one another. So that began the pattern of development for the Black Men's Gathering. Now, when we started, we didn't call it a Black Men's Gathering. We had no sense that it was going to continue. It was just an opportunity for these group of brothers to come together and really have a deep conversation. But realizing with prayer as a common thread, a willingness, a yearning to reach out to the Almighty, a desire to serve mankind, a curiosity about a question, about a conversation for and about Black men, the idea of being open-hearted, open-minded, and open-eyed, and exploring with that attitude, to adopt an attitude of humility and of learning without posture and posturing, and creating an environment, a safe environment where participants could self-disclose and expose their own vulnerabilities, was a pathway that we felt we needed to take. And so we did that throughout that weekend, and we found ways to explore different topics, to laugh, to tell jokes, to tease one another in good humor, and to really open our hearts to one another, to really have profound conversations with one another about the needs and the challenges that we faced. It was really quite an amazing experience. I mean, really, we were just delighted. That's the only word I can say, is just delighted with the opportunity. And as a result of that, we decided at the end that we wanted to continue. One of the brothers then was the administrator that was there, was the administrator for the Louis Gregory Baha'i Institute. His name was Roy Jones. And Roy, who was one of those original 12 people, had started an initiative in rural South Carolina for young Black boys in particular. And he said to us, I would like you to come to Louis Gregory Baha'i Institute and meet there, because I want these young Black boys in that area to see men like you. Now, we were all people of different backgrounds, different experiences, not all sort of, what do you call it, degreed individuals. We had all kinds of folks there. But he said, the qualities that you have are the qualities that they need to be exposed to. Would you come? And so we decided, yes, that's what we'll do. And we called the meeting for the following June. We didn't wait a full year, for the following June. And that's where we convened. Immediately after our meeting in Greensboro, I wrote to the National Spiritual Assembly and also the Universal House of Justice. And I described what happened and asked for their guidance. Gene Andrews, who some of you may know, was a part of that 12 group, and he was leaving immediately following the gathering to go and begin a period of service in Haifa. I think he served on the policy committee of the Universal House of Justice. And so he was going directly there, and he arrived, and of course then briefed there when he arrived, his experience at the gathering. And so I began to get some correspondence from both the House of Justice and from the International Teaching Center about the Black Men's Gathering, what the intent was and what the plan was, and providing me with encouragement to continue. So we then convened the following June in South Carolina. I think the spirit that exists in that community also affected us, just as we might have affected those who we engaged with. You know, the South Carolina, the history of South Carolina, and you know, for Black people, is a rich, rich history. And for the Baha'is to have an institute there dedicated to serving that community is a pretty powerful thing. And so there we were, beginning with prayer. And friends, I have to tell you, we didn't necessarily know how to pray. We just prayed, and we learned over time how to develop and how to pray in what is now known as the devotional style of the Black Men's Gathering. We didn't use drums at first. Someone started to bring drums, and then we incorporated the drumming as a call to prayer. The kind of songs that we sang, we often developed them ourselves. And this process evolved and allowed us to begin to explore that space, that safe environment as an opportunity to really open our hearts, to share the challenges that our spirits felt, to really explore new opportunities and new pathways for service, and really to grow in faith and grow in commitment to service to community. With the support of the International Teaching Center and the Universal House of Justice, we felt emboldened to continue. And we continued that process for 25 years. So let me stop now and share with you this importance of prayer, for example. And I want to share with you this, this one sense, to give you a peek into what it's like to participate with prayer.
Verily
So friends, I think I might have hit the wrong button. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to share a little bit of that. It goes on for a while, but you get a sense of the intensity of prayer that really evolved from the brothers coming together and really learning how to pray. And we decided that this process is an evolving process, that we would learn, and as we learned, we would incorporate those things, and then we would also, make sure that we would share those things in the larger community. So that as these lessons emerged, that we would really take those and see if they had sort of some way to be useful in the Baha'i communities that we come from. There's a quotation of Shoghi Effendi's and that is, I think, really relevant here and important. He said, "It is spirit, determination, and sacrifice. It is spirit, determination, and sacrifice that brings victories one after another." I'll say that again. It is spirit, determination, and sacrifice that brings victories one after another. Now, let me just share with you a quotation from Abdu'l-Baha, where he says, with hearts overflowing with the love of God, with tongues commemorating the mention of God, with eyes turned to the kingdom of God, they must deliver the glad tidings of the manifestation of the Lord of hosts to all the people. Know ye of a certainty that whatever gathering ye enter, the waves of the Holy Spirit are surging over it, and the heavenly grace of the blessed beauty encompasseth that gathering. Now here's one other quotation. Whatsoever gathering is arranged with the utmost love, and where those who attend are turning their faces toward the kingdom of God, and where the discourse is of the teachings of God, and the effect of which is to cause those present to advance, that gathering is the Lord's, and that festive table hath come down from heaven. Well, I have to tell you, that was exactly our experience. That this desire to come together really was born out of this sense of wanting to really be the best men that we could be. Really trying to live up to the standards of our faith, to learn what it means to be a wholesome, contributing participant in the growth of this society in this world. And these challenges always were often faced with disdain. Of course, a lot of people were concerned and were frustrated and didn't understand why a Black men's gathering existed. And, what are you talking about? I can remember a number of people calling and saying to me, white Baha'is saying, well, why are you talking about us in a meeting like that? And I said, well, what makes you think we're talking about you? Because we really weren't talking about others, we were talking about really ourselves, because we're really reaching to sort of empower ourselves. And then I would remind them, the House of Justice really celebrates this effort and supports it. Have you read the message to the House of Justice? And so there was a lot of sort of dissonance, if you will, in the community, with people grappling with trying to understand what it is that was important about this. We nevertheless sort of persisted and continued with the support and appreciation and guidance of the House of Justice, who knew every step along the way what we were doing and why we were doing it. We moved from Greensboro, as I said, to Lewis Gregory Institute. And then as the gathering grew and evolved, even Lewis Gregory could not handle the number of people. They didn't have the housing facilities there. We had to stay in various hotels, sometimes having to drive from hotels to the meeting site an hour and a half every morning and then in the evening. And so we decided at a certain point, even though it was very difficult, to move from the Lewis Gregory Institute to the Greenacre Baha'i School, to that campus. And one of the things that brought us to Greenacre was the fact that the Hand of the Cause of God, Lewis Gregory, is buried in the vicinity of Greenacre. And we thought, what a perfect site. And so we moved there and continued. I want to just share with you a little bit of a few images. So here are 2, 4, 6, 8 of the 12 brothers who were at that initial gathering. This is Richard Thomas. This is James Williams. This is Marvin Hughes. This is Bojack Mangum. This is William Varner. This is Gene Andrews. This is Van Gilmer. So these are 2, 4, 6, 8 of the original 12 brothers who were at the gathering. This is a picture of us at the Lewis Gregory Institute. And you can see the collection of brothers from all over the country. This is a rare glimpse of one of the prayer sessions. One of the things that we tried not to do is to have pictures taken or even recordings much of the times that when we prayed, because we felt, and we still do, that prayer is conversation with God. And so this is a sacred moment, and exposure to the Word of God is a tender thing with the heart. And so we tried to really limit that exposure. But someone was, captured this, and that's interesting. It's a beautiful picture. This is a picture of the brothers under the pines at Greenacre. And here are some other pictures of some of the brothers who were at Greenacre during the gathering. You see the other pictures were the younger guys. These are the Rusty Dusties. Here we are following a trip to West Africa, which I haven't really talked about yet, but we went in 1996, the House of Justice sent a letter to the Baha'is of North America. And in that letter, they called on believers of African descent to visit the continent of Africa, with the idea of encouraging the believers there, and trying to inspire and encourage them in their efforts, because as the House of Justice said, they are on the brink of great achievements. And so we began to do that each year. And so this is the year we went to West Africa. And these are the numbers of brothers that went. And then following that sojourn of 3 weeks, a month in Africa, we then went to the World Center and paid a special visit. Here we are with the Hand of the Cause. And here's another picture of when the group that went to East Africa, we call it the East Africa Regiment, visited Haifa. And here we're pictured with members of the Teaching Center, and I think some members of the House of Justice are here. Mr. Nakjivani is here. So that just gives you a sort of a little picture. I'm a little concerned about my time, so I'm going to really move quickly to just share with you that the House of Justice, recognizing the beauty of the gathering and its contributions to the culture of the Baha'i community, really continued to write and encourage us every step of the way. In 2011, following a really quite powerful letter that the gathering wrote to the House of Justice, the House of Justice responded in a thunderous way. It was really quite amazing. And they wrote this letter. They said, and I'm just going to quote a couple of passages. "A quarter century ago, the Black Men's Gathering was established with the aim of soothing hearts that had sustained slow healing wounds and cultivating capacity for participation in a world-embracing mission. The approach involved drawing together a number of participants from across the country with a capable facilitator. As you well know, in the Baha'i faith, the watchword of which is the oneness of humanity, it is no small exception to make arrangements for an assemblage that excludes others by race and gender. Yet, acknowledging the uncommon circumstances, the House of Justice lent its support to your endeavor with high hopes and expectations. For these many years, the gathering has served as a bulwark against the forces of racial prejudice afflicting your nation, and indeed attacking the Baha'i community itself, creating an environment in which injuries could be tended, bonds of unity strengthened, sparks of spirituality fanned into flames, and the capacity for assuming the responsibility for the work of the cause gradually developed through experience in the field of action. Later in that letter, they say, the experience of the last 5 years and the recent guidance of the House of Justice should make it evident that in the instruments of the plan you now have within your grasp, everything that is necessary to raise up a new people and eliminate racial prejudice as a force within your society, though the path ahead remains long and arduous. The Institute process is the primary vehicle by which you can transform and empower your people, indeed all the peoples of your nation. You have the capacity to serve as and to prepare others to be educators of children, animators of junior youth, teachers of the faith, tutors of study circles, participants in elevated discourse, initiators of social action. And then they say, let the well-prepared army you have assembled advance from its secure fortress to conquer the hearts of your fellow citizens. What is needed is concerted, persistent, sacrificial action, cycle after cycle in cluster after cluster, by an ever-swelling number of consecrated individuals. So with that, the Black Men's Gathering came to a close in terms of its annual sort of process. But what we now have seen since then is those individuals who have gone back to their communities and who have consistently developed initiatives providing this sort of thrust in this development of people in their neighborhoods and in their communities. You'll hear more about that from the brothers who are here on the panel tonight, and you'll hear more as the weekend goes on. I'll just bring this to a close by saying many things are happening, and it's sort of quite moving to me, especially at this time when race in this country is such a major topic on the minds and in the lips of so many people, and how many people are referring to the BMG in terms of how it's influenced them, how it's affected them, both white and Black, men and women. People of all backgrounds are really celebrating it and recalling the power of it. I don't have the time to tell you about all the travel teaching trips to various parts of Africa and other parts of the world. I don't have time to really talk about many of the details, but I do want to take this moment and say, just today, something happened that really sort of surprised me. A friend of ours, her name is Joanne Nato, I think she might even be on the call, gave a gift to my wife of this little book, and it's actually a poem, and it's called Will You Break the Silence? And I'll show you the book. It's here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's Will You Break the Silence, and it's by Andrea Hope. And in it is her poem, and she goes through and writes this poem in each page. It's really quite a beautiful sort of presentation. And so my wife said to me, look, you should read this book. Read it right now. It's not going to take long. And so I stood by her, and as I went through it, and it was very beautiful. She said, now read the back. And so I read the first part, and it describes Andrea, and she's a poet and an editor and a world citizen, and she describes where she's been a little bit, and she mentions that she's a member of the Baha'i faith. And I said, oh, that's nice. And then my wife said, Betty said, well, read on. And so I read on the next paragraph and the next paragraph. And she said, no, read everything. So then I read down at the very bottom, and it said, dedicated to Drew Andrew Valentine and the Black Men's Gathering. Now, I don't know Andrea. I hope to know her. I hope to get to know her. But the fact that somehow the Black Men's Gathering has influenced her thinking, her work, is terribly moving to me. And so I wanted to share that with you. You can get her book on Amazon, I'm told. Will You Break the Silence by Andrea Hope. So now I think it's time for me to stop. And there are many things that I could say, but I think it's now time for you to hear from some of these wonderful brothers who are here and have been a part of the gathering, and to share a little bit. So let's turn to them, and we'll start with Dennis Davis from Florida. Dennis is a consultant and has a very active practice, and we'll turn to him. Dennis.
Wow, just put me right on the spot, Billy. Well, Allahu Akbar, friends. I was thinking about what I would share with the friends tonight, and got my timer going. I remember when I was invited to the BMG, and I think like me, like most of the brothers, our wives were involved in that process in some way, because all the brothers know how important and how impactful our wives are in this process, because they really, give us the support and provide us sometimes with encouragement to engage in these different enterprises. So I remember being invited, and I was a little upset because I didn't know the brothers were getting together. And so when I learned that the brothers were getting together, I'm like, how come I didn't know about this? So I was over excited to go, not knowing what to expect. You don't get a letter of explanation or, prepare this and do this. You're going to be here from this date to that date. Just bring your spiritual self and get ready to work. So I remember seeing the first schedule, and it said prayers. And it went from 9 in the morning to lunch. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, how in the world are we going to pray for 3 hours, And I said, this is going to be difficult. This is going to be different, The 3 hours went into a vacuum. I can't tell you where the 3 hours went, because it was such a sweet enterprise that it was just a different otherworld experience to be in that space with brothers all begging for assistance from the concourse on high. It's hard to describe the effect that those prayers have. Then I looked at the schedule, and I saw deepening on the letters and messages from the Universal House of Justice. That was also a large block of hours. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be interesting too, right? How are we going to be able to focus our attention for that amount of time on these messages? That time too went super fast. And to hear the different voices and the different expressions of the brothers sharing what the letter means to them and what the messages mean to them. And the focus, the intense focus on the guidance and the messages from the Universal House of Justice, it was really earth-shattering for me. I can honestly say I learned how to pray at the gathering, and I learned how to study and truly deepen on the messages. Of course, we are there for a week, so we have a unique opportunity that most of us don't have to be thoroughly immersed in that spiritual enterprise for that long, with this being on the same page, the same objective. Of course, people had ideas and what they might want to say and what they want to do, but we were always focused right back into the guidance. and any agendas that weren't aligned with the Institute process or the 5-year plan, those were immediately tossed out. There was no place for that. And it was done in a loving way. It wasn't heavy-handed, but it was clear what we're here for, and all that other stuff, that's not important. Being in that safe space, seeing the smiling faces, brothers embracing each other, brothers hugging each other, brothers telling each other, I love you, brother. It was like a little slice of heaven on earth, because we don't have that kind of space here in this society where we can do that. And we were allowed to do that. And it was almost like just an unburdening and a lifting of weight off our shoulders, where we didn't have to worry about how we walked, how we moved, and, oh, there's too many of us together over here. Are the friends going to be uncomfortable? There was none of that. So we had a unique opportunity to spend that time aligning ourselves. And it was always, after all the consultation and all the sharing, it was always about, how do we align? What are you going to do when you get back to your community? What are you going to do? How are you going to apply yourself? And I can say that our communities, the communities I've lived in, the friends were so sweet. They would be waiting for me to come back from the gathering. Like, okay, what are we doing now? You know, and they were all so supportive. They were almost like, oh, you're going to the gathering. My wife was like, you're going to the gathering. And it wasn't really an option. Not that I needed her motivation, but she knew what the gathering meant to me and what it meant to the community and what it meant to the faith. And so kudos to all our significant others, because they get it, they got it. Sometimes they get it before we get it. And they insist that we become part of that enterprise. I wanted to share a story, if I can. I came in on the second half of the gathering. So I missed all those trips to Africa and the different places where the brothers went to serve. And I had a yearning and a longing to do that. So Billy called me one day and he said, you know how Billy calls you. He said, hey brother, how you doing? He's so calm. And he never calls for just a call. You're gonna get something out of it. And so he said, would you be interested in going to South Africa? And he said it just like I'm talking now, just so casual. And I'm like, would I be interested in going to South Africa? Of course I'd be interested in going to South Africa. So when do we go? What do we do? The whole night. So he explains we're going to be in a field of service with people who have, you know, experienced some of the long-term suffering of injustices. In addition to that, we're going to do a fishing safari, and we're going to do an animal safari. And man, I was so excited. I couldn't wait. I know my wife got sick of me talking about it, you know, and the only thing I was dreading was getting my shots, because I absolutely hate needles, but I didn't care. I want to go serve with the brothers in Africa. So the day is getting near, And I almost think the day before I was supposed to get my shots, I got a call from Billy. And Billy said, he kind of sighed and said, brother, I just want to tell you that we're not going to be able to go to South Africa because the Universal House of Justice said it's not a good time for us to go. I said, okay. He got quiet. I said, you still there? He said, I'm still here. I said, you're quiet. That's not quite like you. He says, I'm overwhelmed with the response of the brothers. Every brother I called and said, the Universal House of Justice said, we can't go. Without fail said, okay. No explanation, no questions, no nothing. That we learned from the gathering, the obedience to the Universal House of Justice. It just fills my heart knowing that we were part of an enterprise that was obedient and aligned ourselves with the Universal House of Justice and Guidance. And I'm just very privileged and blessed to have been a part of that. And I'll yield the remainder of my time to the brother from Atlanta.
Actually, you don't have any more time. So thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you very much. So let's turn to, yes, the House of Justice is the source of all good, freed from all error. Yes. So let's turn to Shawheen. Shawheen James is a physician, and so we'll look forward to hearing your reflections, Shawheen.
Aloha, friends. I was, like Dennis, trying to reflect on all the things that I wanted to say, and there's so much to pack in. And I'll try. I have my timer here, so I'm going to try to keep it to 10 minutes. But I love the Black Men's Gathering. Like it has a very special place in my heart, and it came into, I think, my life at a time that was very critical and crucial. And really all of my stories and anecdotes that I tell always start at this point in my life, because it's really when my life truly changed. But it was in, I think it was 2007 was my first encounter with the Black Men's Gathering. And it was the summer or the winter of 2006, 2007 that, I went to Ghana with the brothers. And about 3 months prior to that visit, it was the first month of college for me, and my sister passed away unexpectedly, 15 years old. I was on campus, and I got a phone call. It was tough. It was really hard. It was the first time I had been, truly on my own out in the world. And, I was already starting to explore life and what it means. And then this gets thrown in my face, and I didn't know what to do. And fortunately for me, I had support and people in my life, and the Black Men's Gathering came into my life at that time. And it provided me with so much, a safe space to cry, a safe space to have my burdens shared for the first time, because I went right back to school about a week after passing of my sister, and life went back to normal, And I just never had time to truly process what I was going through. And I distinctly remember it was the first day at the Black Men's Gathering, the summer of 2007. And, at the beginning of each gathering, right, it's, if you have a problem with confidentiality, leave the room now. And there's always a question, why did you come? And I remember seeing people with these tear rags, and I didn't understand what those were for until I stood up and I started speaking about why I was there. And then my dad was also there, and he got up and he spoke, and both of us just lost it. And I remember we called my dad to the center of the room, and the brothers gathered around him, hands together in a circle, and chanted, Ya Bahá'í-ullah, Ya Bahá'í-ullah, Ya Bahá'í-ullah, for 6 minutes. It was that intense love that brought me so much healing. This is the Black Men's Gathering, and what that space truly represented for me. A chance for healing, and a safe space to cry, and a safe space to unburden myself. I think the other thing that the Black Men's Gathering provided for me in particular was a sense of self. It was the first time for me that all of my various identities found coherence. I'm Persian on one side, I'm a person of African descent on another, and I'm a Baha'i. And all of these were various identities that I was trying to bring together and to harmonize. And it was the first time that I had seen that it was possible to be my various identities and be a Baha'i at the same time. What it means to be an African-American man in this world and a Baha'i at the same time. I truly found Baha'u'llah in that space. And I thank the Black Men's Gathering and that space for providing that. I think additionally for me, kind of coming into an already established culture so late in the process, there was this already established built-in culture, and there was so much that I was able to observe within the first, session. And some of the thoughts that I wrote down here, and they've already been expressed, love, unconditional love. I have never been in a space where total strangers come up to you, hug you as if they've known you for 20 years, say, I love you with such a passion, and they mean it. I've never been in a space, up to that point, had never been in a space like that. And it was so meaningful. That's really what I observed, that the Black Men's Gathering was driven by this love, not just for each other, but a love for Baha'u'llah and a love for the House of Justice. Unity through prayer. Like all the brothers, I learned to pray at the Black Men's Gathering. And something that I observed also is that there was such an intense focus during prayer that the call and response took so many various forms. I remember one time, it was amazing. Somebody brought out a musical instrument and started playing. And then somebody else brought out a musical instrument, and through that focus, that intense focus and that unity, they engaged in a call and response, back and forth. The patience that it took to wait your turn, to know when to go, that intense focus and that sense of unity that was created through that prayer was just incredibly powerful. I think above all, and I think I won't spend time on this because I think the point is already made by Dennis, but the shared sense of purpose centered around the covenant and the deep understanding of the covenant of Baha'u'llah that existed in that room. And I think Dennis's story really captured that really well. I want to close with a story because I think it speaks to the true essence of the Black Men's Gathering and the power that it has to truly transform the world, the spirit of the Black Men's Gathering. It meant so much to me, and I was only able to participate in 3 before I went and served in Haifa for a number of years. And it was in 2011, I was in Haifa at the time when the Black Men's Gathering came to a close. And I remember being so upset because I wasn't with the brothers in those final moments. And I didn't know what to do, and I reached out to people. And I remember being invited to the house of Paul and Marshall Lample. He had invited a group of people over to the house to have a conversation and to study the recent message from the House of Justice calling for the end of the Black Men's Gathering in its current form. And I remember in that space, we focused on this sentence from the 28 August 2011 message, right? The House of Justice hopes that from the various communications you have studied, you have perceived that the time has now come for the friends who have benefited from the gathering to raise their sights to new horizons. And what came out of that meeting was an understanding that the House of Justice wasn't necessarily calling for the end of the Black Men's Gathering per se. It was saying that the time has now come for the Black Men's Gathering to transform. That you had reached a stage of maturity such that you can take that spirit and translate that into the Institute process, this tool of limitless potentialities, that this spirit and this culture you guys have cultivated can now be translated to numerous thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And this, for me, gave me a newfound appreciation for the power of the Black Men's Gathering, that once liberated from that current form and transformed into something so magnificent that it has the potential to truly transform the world. And that, for me, is the power of the Black Men's Gathering, is that spirit, those qualities then translated and shared more broadly and widely. I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Shawheen. Thank you. So now let's turn to Alton Williams, who is from New Jersey, Teaneck, New Jersey, who is, I call him an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. So please, Alton.
Hi, everyone. I was fairly new Baha'i at the time. And I think my wife was in touch with Billy and some other brothers. And she was insisting that I contact Billy about the Black Men Gathering. So finally I did. And he told me basically some part of what it was about. But I had the same concerns of some of the original 12. I just became a Baha'i, and one of the reasons I became a Baha'i because I love the interaction of the different races and different people of the world. So I was concerned about why would a Black Men Gathering be necessary. However, so I decided I would go up, but the year I decided, I was busy, so I decided not to go. The next year, the same thing, I was too busy to go. So, but then I heard one of the brothers came back and said, well, you know, they're going to Africa. And so I called Billy and I said, listen, I want to go to Africa. He said, you can't go to Africa? I said, why? Why can't I go to Africa? He said, you haven't been to a gathering. I said, wow, does that mean that I have to come to the gathering to go to Africa? So that was, the next year was that kind of inspired me to get to the gathering so I can join the guys going to Africa. So I goes to the gathering and believe me, I can't tell you how my life was changed. It was the most inspirational time of my life with the gatherings. And as Shawheen just mentioned, it was unconditional love, something that, I tell people that I was in the civil rights movement. And in that time, people had your back, you had camaraderie. But, and I was in the Air Force and the military during the Vietnam time. And again, your life depends on people protecting you. So you have camaraderie there, but I had never experienced what I experienced in the Black Men's Gathering. I mean, what I saw there was something that the first time I went, I just was hoping that every Black man in the world could witness, experience something like I had experienced at that gathering. I was so touched. In fact, I made up my mind that, okay, I'm going to sponsor somebody to the gathering. So just about, I don't know how many years I went, but I tried to sponsor someone there. And I think either it had to be a new brother who wasn't a member of the faith or a inactive brother. And I think at least I think three of the brothers were new, and they all became Baha'is. The inactive brother became active, and he was a special brother. So I think that I felt like this was something that we all should share. I was taken to the point where people in the faith in my local community, before I was sitting at the back of the room, had no idea what I was supposed to be doing in this faith. And I came back. From the first time I came back, the people was asking, what happened to Al? I mean, you know, this guy, well, he spent a week up at Maine. I don't know what happened up there, because I found that I should be involved. I found that my place in the faith became more of a mechanism for me to spread myself, my feelings toward other people. I think I took it as like in the faith we have a prayer, the hollow reed. And I really felt like I wanted people to feel through me what I was feeling about the gathering and about the faith. And I think when we were there, when we were at the place, it was so beautiful, even in our off time, which is spare time in the evenings that we spent together. I mean, really, it was like you person walked into the room and you felt him, you felt his love, you felt the things that he liked. We played cards sometime, and that was very funny, and you had a lot of fun doing that. The next morning, you have a conversation. You may be having a conversation outside about last night, and next thing you know, the Negro policeman is closing the door in your face, and you just missed a very, very beautiful devotion. He didn't let you in if you weren't there when Bill say go. I mean, it was everything was so special. I mean, I look back on those days, and I think sometimes, well, why, not why was it stopped, but what would happen if everybody could have experienced that? Maybe not just all men, but especially Black men. And I think that when the House of Justice made that decision, I felt like, okay, this is great. This is fine, because we are having some effect on not just the American community. I went on pilgrimage, and on pilgrimage in Haifa when we were, I think about 400 people, and they had buses that take you from place to place. And on the bus, they decided to start singing. And these people, and I think it was 2 Black people up there other than myself on the bus. And these are people from all over the world. And these young kids start singing, and just about every song they sung was from the BMG. I said, listen to this, you know, because I know the Baha'i songs from other places and songs of the past from our different cultures. But these people some of them didn't even speak English, and they were singing the BMG songs. I was so impressed. I think that we have had something that whoever experienced it will never forget it. I love the BMG. I love the brothers, and the thing unconditional love was what we went by, and that was really what it was, unconditional love. And the like Dennis said, the studies of the message from the House of Justice, and I tell you, it's so heartfelt in those letters. I mean, really, you can feel it. They had a letter that we sent that we call it the June 3rd letter, and we call it the letter that was written from the House of Justice to the Black men gathering. And we studied that letter for a week in Green Acre, And I went home and I called 16 brothers who weren't at that gathering, and a couple of more that were at the gathering. And we went over the letter again. And those 16 people brought up things that all of us that the 125 hadn't brought up in a week in Green Acre. So it was so the letters are so broad, and you get so much out of them. So again, I agree with Dennis. That was one of the special parts of the gathering and studying those letters. I was a member of a coordinating committee, and at the time the House made that decision, we had a call for a meeting in Virginia, and I came down to the meeting, and you know, everyone was wondering, what is this about? So we had the meeting, and when the message came out that this is going to be, like Dr. Roberts says, not stop, but to bring it in a new direction. Everybody, when we went back to the meeting after the break, everybody was saying, how's Al? Al, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. I'm fine with this. This is the House of Justice. I'm fine. And so after the meeting, I was coming from that part of Virginia, which is the eastern part, through Washington. And that traffic in DC was bumper to bumper, and I hadn't told anybody this was Dr. Roberts. And I was, it was like all of a sudden the traffic was just stopped almost, and it came down on me, and I started crying. I don't know, I just started boohoo crying. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't know what was going on. I never had that to happen before. I just felt so. I couldn't call Dr. Roberts or anybody from the gathering because they were wondering, are you okay? They're the only one that would have known why I was crying. Definitely wasn't gonna call my wife because she would have had a heart attack, but she never heard me cry like that. And so I started saying the removal of difficult. The second time I said it, the traffic started moving, and then I could calm down. That's the only thing that calmed me down. And I realized that, you know, it felt like I had lost something, and wasn't about myself, what I was feeling. It was about how many young brothers need this. And I think that was the hurting part. How many young brothers need this? I was doing a lot of work with the people, with the young people in IYO, International Youth Organization in Newark. And these are young brothers and sisters that off the street, they come back to get their GED, trying to get work. And I see so much talent there, so much talent, that these people had dropped out of school. And I was thinking about them, what if I could have exposed this to all of them? But anyway, my time is up, and I just want to say that the BMG was a part of my life that I'm proud of. I'm proud. I'm so happy to have known all these young, beautiful brothers, and I love every one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alton. Thank you so much. So now we call on Nasif Habeeb-ullah, who has a distinguished career of counseling and really helping those who are incarcerated. And so Nasif, would you please share? You have to, thank you very much, sir.
Allah Akbar. I guess I just jotted some things down as the brothers were talking. I guess the way for me to best describe how the impact the gathering had on me as far as this is to have some kind of understanding of my background. When I came from Vietnam, when I went to Vietnam initially, I was pretty much a soldier, if you will. and I left a rebel. I came back from Vietnam. I was very much interested in social change, very much interested in justice for Black people. Became a member of the Black Panther Party very, very briefly, because I saw some things in that it just didn't suit my way of life at that time. But anyway, I had an experience to where I went into the Nation of Islam while I was incarcerated. And the Nation of Islam was appealing to me because of its identity with Black people and the Black identity and nation building. And that was appealing to me. I was in the nation for probably about, I came in under Elijah Muhammad, and I was in the nation, including the Orthodox Islam, for probably about 15 years. And that's when I encountered the Baha'i faith. Now, cut this real short. When I first went to the gathering, I didn't think about whether it was, I really didn't want white people there, quite frankly. I mean, this is my background. And when I went to the gathering, my whole idea was that, we're going to start a movement, a Black movement within the Baha'i faith, and we're going to take this thing over, and we're going to make it do what it do, but to my surprise, when I got down there, and it was at Louis Gregory. It was actually my third gathering. It was the third gathering, and that was the one I attended. I didn't go to the one in Carolina, nor the one that was first held at Louis Gregory. So that was my third gathering. And when I went there, that's what I had in mind. I mean, it was good to see brothers. Because pretty much my life had been around Black men. Although all these relationships were pretty much unsavory, but be that as it may, I was kind of looking for the same kind of experience with a little more spirituality to it. But anyway, I was just delighted to see all these brothers in the room. I used to, when I first came into faith, I hung out with this brother named Zachary Vaughn. Zach and I were very, very adamant about race unity in the Baha'i community. And it just really didn't seem to be going anywhere. And so the gathering to me was a platform for us to just forget about the white folk and just gather the brothers together and, but what got me was the prayers. Now, my background, we didn't pretty much pray like that. And when the prayers started, the prayers and the singing, I remember, Shawheen, your dad was on one side of me, and Jim Sturdivant was on the other. I broke down, man. I broke down. I just wept. I wept like a baby. So Bob and Jim Sturdivant was trying to comfort me, but that was my real first break to being in a spiritual environment with Black men. Most of my association with Black men, like I say, was always something else. It never spiritual. And so when that happened, my whole idea about who I was began to change. My impression of the gathering was that, the brothers were a little bit too soft, not the gathering, but in the Baha'i community, excuse me, not the gathering. These were not soft brothers in the gathering, but in the Baha'i community. And I saw a lot of brothers that who I thought was soft turned into something else when we were at that gathering. You know what I mean? I mean, not in a mean-spirited way, but brothers began to take on ownership of the faith. Began to, we had this thing about this is our faith, and we were gonna own it, and we were gonna be. Our whole desire was to be a moving force in the Baha'i community, not to take over, but to inspire and to let our voices be heard. And one of the things it kind of put the gathering kind of remind me of is a giant. The way Abdu'l-Baha talk about feasts, it's like a giant feast. We come in, we pray for hours. We pray, and we go on break after prayer. We have a little snack, and we just the love that these brothers show towards each other is I've never experienced it. I never saw anything like it. And it was, when Bahá'u'lláh talk about the so powerful the light of unity, it can illuminate the whole earth. To see how the spirit of that gathering moved individual souls to a level of commitment and involvement and spiritual enlightenment was, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The main thing that we put emphasis on, and thank Billy for that. I mean, the covenant was the center of the gathering. That was everybody. I mean, so when Al talk about, how he felt after he heard the House of Justice, we love the House of Justice. I mean, it was not we just love the House of Justice. And when we would deepen on the letters from the House of Justice, the deepening was on a level that I have yet to see in the Baha'i community to this day. The passion that these brothers would put into that letter, the concern, I mean, for almost every word in that letter, and our focus would be on what the House of Justice was telling us. And for us, these were the marching orders, the Rizwan message, these were the marching orders. When we, when the House of Justice asked for, I think it's doing a 4-year plan for brothers to go to Africa and for Black people to go to Africa, and they dispatch other people to other parts of the planet. But asking Black people to go to Africa, and it was the gathering at Louis Gregory at the time. And I'm sitting there like, I'm not going to Africa. I pray for the brothers, but I'm not, But I went home from that gathering and told my wife, and what that plan had come up, and she said, "Oh, you going?" I said, "Well, wait a minute, now wait, whoa." She said, "No, you going to Africa." I'm like, we can't afford it. She said, "No, we're gonna get the money. You going to Africa? You going to Africa?" Well, y'all know when the sisters speak, you gotta listen. but anyway, that was, I tell you, I've been a lot of places, but going to Africa with these brothers, it was 9 of us that went on that first trip to Africa. And it was quite different. We went on that trip, and Billy said, we going as servants. We're going as servants. And we didn't go, well, the trip was in Namibia, and we went and we served. That's what we did. We washed dishes. We took plates off the table. We served. And the friends were kind of like, they were baffled. I remember one where we were in a meeting, and they say, you all are different. And we would ask her, what do you mean different? She said, y'all are different from the other, from other black people in America. And so we asked, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? And so, well, our impression was, that black men were violent and, just really off, just out of it. And the impression that we made on the African friends was so, you could feel the camaraderie and the kinship that came out of those meetings, and being with them. We were just one people. And so when Billy said that Al couldn't go to the gathering, that had to be a part of going to Africa, because that link up with brothers loving each other and showing that type of respect for each other was created in the gathering. So when we went to Africa, that's what we wanted to demonstrate to the Africans, that we were one unit, one group. And so, and after that first trip, and we went to not pilgrimage, but we went to Haifa for a 3-day visit. I tell you, and that was my first time ever being in Haifa and meeting Mr. Nakdimani. It was, I'll never forget it. See, and one of the things that we talk about the spirit of the gathering, I often think about the spirit of the gathering, the spirit of our ancestors. The spirit of our ancestors seemed to be alive in the gathering. It's almost like we were the answer to a prayer that they prayed over 400 years ago. And when we would meet in that gathering and have those experiences, those spiritual experiences, it was another world. It was just totally another world. And I wish most of us could experience that. I'm not saying we haven't, but the spirit, it was like you wasn't on the planet. You just wasn't on the earth. It was another world. But yes, I digress. But the way we, Billy would assign people to write letters to the gathering. We call these love letters. We write the House Justice love letters, and he would assign brothers to write the letters. And the brothers would write the letters, and read them after they wrote the letter, probably after about 3 days. It wasn't, usually it took a while to write those letters. After about 3 days, and they would present the letter to the gathering, and Billy would ask if we accepted it, and everybody would stand up and applaud. Everybody. That was the love that we expressed for the House of Justice.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nasif. Thank you. Friends, I think we now have a little time to open it up for any questions or comments. I want to just take this minute and just thank each one of these brothers for sharing their hearts. Deeply appreciated. So, and I think Jessica, are you there, Jessica?
I am. I'm here.
Are you going to assist us now?
Yes, I am. So we've got a couple questions.
I realize that we are out of time, and so people have to leave. We understand that, but I think we're going to give a few people a little chance to ask some questions. All right?
Yeah. So we have a question from someone who wanted me to ask it on their behalf. How did the gathering change your ideas on what manhood is?
Dennis, do you want to try that one?
I think the gathering changed my some of my beliefs in terms of being able to openly express emotions in front of other men. I can't say that I had a bad upbringing. I had a dad who loved me and taught me the right way. So all of us don't come from those situations where we don't have any kind of concept about that. But I never was with other men in a spiritual enterprise. And I think that was the difference for me. I've had other healthy male relationships, being in a fraternity and going to college and playing sports, but it didn't have that spiritual component. And I think for me, that spiritual component of that changed the tenure and the complexion of that relationship, and that ability to embrace and to share and to express love to another man in a healthy way, I guess it expanded my concept of manhood. So I was able to include that component that I don't think I was ever, aside from my dad, we hugged and stuff like that. But after that, you got to put on your armor and you got to be tough, and you can't show weakness, and you have to carry yourself a certain way, especially when we walk out our doors, right? And so to be able to be in that space, in that special space, in that special time, with the common bond being the love for Bahá'í-ullah and the love for the Universal House of Justice and the love for the covenant, it was a totally different contextual shift about manhood with a spiritual component that I don't think I had prior to the gathering.
Thank you. Jessica, do you have another question?
Yes, I'm going to invite Sherlyn to go ahead and ask the question. Sherlyn.
Hi, Sherlyn.
Hi guys. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. In my earlier comment, I said I'm a Baha'i Black woman, and as such, I am just so grateful for those that were inspired to do this, and all of you have participated in it. It's so needed, and I just have so much love for all of you. But my question was, well, actually I kind of have two or three. They're short ones though. My first question was, where's the album? I don't have all the songs. I want all the songs. And I'm only connected with one brother in the gathering right now, and he's doling them out real slow. I'm not going to mention any names. But he's doling them out real slow to me over here. I'm down here in little tiny Salisbury, Maryland, okay? And I want the rest of the songs. But my real question is, and that really is a question though.
Sherilyn, put your address on chat and I'll see what I can do for you.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. You made my weekend. Thank you so much. And speaking of making my weekend, to hear you brothers talk about the covenant and how you love the universal house of justice and obey it without question. Oh, you just don't know how that's affected my heart. That is so deep and so high. It's just incredible. And that you all have this capacity to bring this out and share it with others. I'm just so grateful for you. That's all I can say. But that gets to my second question. And to your knowledge, how are other participants of the Black Men's Gathering, or yourselves, or others you may know of, creating this space for others? What's going on either within the Baha'i community or in the wider community to get this out to other young Black boys and men who truly, truly need this? So if you have any stories to share, I would love to hear about them. Thank you.
Well, Sherilyn, we invite you to come join the session on Sunday, which is called Community Builders, and there you will get exactly those stories.
Great.
All right? All right.
Thank
now,
you.
be sure and put your information on chat so I can be in touch. All right? Jessica, you have somebody else?
Yes, another question that they wanted me to ask. This is from Robert Green. What do you mean by the covenant was the center of the gathering? What about your agreement with God is standing out to you?
Nasif, why don't you speak to this?
Well, the covenant is the agreement with God. I mean, one of the things that I think most of, I can only speak from my own experience, the covenant had no place in my life as a Black man or a Black person, period, so it goes. So the covenant was that, in Agdas it says that you have to embrace Bahá'í-ullah and be obedient to his commands, and not just recognize, but be obedient. That obedience, for me, is obedience to the covenant of God. And that is where, in my own personal life, that I have been remiss in making the covenant a part of my life. So for the covenant to impact my life in a transformative way is what I have been missing. And so the gathering connected me with that promise, that had an eternal promise that was made, long before we can remember. The gathering brought that into a focus for me, to where this is my life. This is the life that that I've been looking for. So yeah, that's what I meant by that, is that it brought to the front, to the forefront, the covenant and what it means to us as Black people. And that was my rejuvenation. That's what I meant by that.
Thank you. Jessica?
Thank you, Nasif. All right, I'm going to invite Alyssa into the room to ask her question. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Hello, Alyssa.
Hi. Thank you so much for sharing so open-heartedly tonight. I'm really grateful to be to be learning from all of you. My question was, and some of this might be touched on Sunday, but I guess my question was, how did you maintain the spirit and healing that you experienced at the Black Man's Gathering when you returned to your communities? And I guess I was thinking of that through the lens of times that I've attended programs, let's say at Green Acre, and felt this, just felt really uplifted or transformed, and then, feel really inspired, and then you go home and it can feel easy to feel disheartened. And so how did you maintain that spirit and healing energy?
Alton, would you try to respond to that?
I think one way we did it, we maintain that spirit, is that we start having local gatherings, and those local gatherings spread it so fast that we were almost unable to control them. So the spirit was being taken back to the various communities across the country. And I think that spirit of the BMG that we call the BMG devotions that we were having caught on like wildfire. So we were really taking it back to the communities, and we were involving other people, other parts of the community with that feelings. And so those gatherings really also, in my situation, our situation, in our community, we had many people come in, new people come into the faith through those BMG gatherings that we were having locally. So that spirit was really effective, not just to us who were at the gathering, but when we came back, that spirit was spreaded.
Thank you very much. Jessica?
I'm going to invite Shadu into the room.
Shadu.
We should hear you now.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Hi, Dr. Billy and the brothers, Nasif. If you could indulge me, when I went to the meeting at Louis Gregory for the first time, I arrived the day after. I had traveled with Vaughn, Nasif's wife, and I went to Nasif. I said, Nasif, where is the program? And Nasif said, brother, come. And he took me to another gentleman, I can't remember now. Said, the brother is asking for a program. And the gentleman looked at me and said, were you invited? And I'm like, whoa, this is a Baha'i meeting. What do you mean, am I invited? And then they took me, both of them took me to Billy. Unfortunately, I knew Billy from the World Center. And he gave me this hug and welcomed me so graciously. So that was my first experience with the gathering. And I think that experience with the gathering is only second to those moments at the World Center where you are, when one is in the shrines or the vicinities of the shrine and has that feeling of being uplifted spiritually. So the gatherings have a great impact. And my question to the panelists is, so the house directed the gathering to focus on higher horizons. And I suppose that this is the framework for action, which the house graciously gave to the Baha'i world. But the question is, how do we support each other to be fully involved in this experience, which is a learning experience? Because if we are not involved, then we will be left behind and our contributions would be missed in this new experience. So how do we support each other to take the process with the same spirit that we experience at the gatherings? That's question number one. And question number two, I think, was asked and alluded to, and that was that there are so many young people in and out of the Baha'i community that would really benefit from these experiences. They are looking for role models. And how can those who have had this bounty of attending BMG gatherings connect with these young people, particularly those who you find unfortunate situation, they are raised by single mothers and they're looking for somebody, you know, to look up to, or even the families. If we come from families, how can these families of the BMG experience connect with these young people to give them some hope? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shawheen, do you want to try to respond to this, please?
Sure. The couple of kind of thoughts that came to my mind to address the first question in terms of, and correct me if I'm wrong if I got the question incorrect, but how do we take this spirit and support each other in translating that spirit into our current activities, into the activities of the plan in particular, and into this framework that our beloved House of Justice has so graciously given to the world. And I honestly, I think it starts with what we talked about throughout, echoes from each of our responses, right? It begins with a sense of love, right? Our connection to Baha'u'llah and our connection to the covenant, our understanding of the covenant, and bringing ourselves closer and closer to a fuller understanding of the covenant and making it the center of our lives. This is really, for me, what the Black Men's Gathering represented. And these principles are in fact embedded in the Institute process, are embedded in the core activities themselves. Book 8 speaks to the covenant itself, deepens our understanding of the covenant as the pivot, right? The pivot around which we all revolve. And so I think it begins there, right? It starts with how do we love more and how do we love each other? How do we embody the principles that are embedded in Book 1, right? In the beginning, Section 1, right? Let your heart burn with loving kindness for all who may cross your path. I remember Uncle Billy talked so much throughout the gathering that the essence of the gathering is to love a brother, to show patience and to show love. This is it. Right? And how do we do that? And I think your question relates to the previous question that was asked in terms of how do we sustain that? And one of those ways is learning how to pray, one, right? And really embodying that principle of studying the writings morning and evening. The other thing that I think is also embedded in the Institute process is learning how to learn. I think Uncle Billy alluded to this earlier, that the Black Men's Gathering didn't just happen. It was a process of learning over 25 years about what works and what doesn't. What should we keep and what should we not keep, right? And through that process of learning, we are able to create something as magnificent as the spirit of the Black Men's Gathering, and then translate that and disseminate that throughout the world. So I think that addresses your first question. And I think we're running low on time. Do I have time to address the second one?
If it's brief, because we really have to respect the friends.
Yeah. Okay. I'll yield there.
Okay.
I'll yield there.
Well, friends, maybe we have time for one more question, because I'm really sensitive and trying to respect your time. And then I have a little piece of music that I want to share with you as we close. So is there one more question, Jessica?
Yes. Sue Emil, who had to leave earlier, she asked, do we emphasize the administrative principles, agendas, and order dominated by the clock at the expense of spiritual principles that provide for feelings, hearts, and souls?
You know, so let me try to respond to that. And I wish Sue was here to hear it. Each community has its own culture. And so I think we have to be careful not to simply impose a sort of standard across the spectrum. I do think that it's important that there is a balance, because structure is important. We are a community. We have business that we have to attend to and responsibilities, and and there's also the other component, which really go hand in hand. And so it's not, so I just want us to be careful not to sort of lambaste, a particular approach, because it may fit within that culture. Now, the gathering has had quite an impact on Baha'i culture, not only in the United States or in North America, but worldwide. The music, for example, I think Alton was saying that he was on a bus someplace in Haifa or something, and he heard these people who were not from the United States and didn't speak English singing songs from the gathering. Through the Carmel gospel singers at the World Center, Catherine Day invited individuals to bring their music. And I can tell you, for example, I was in India at a Holy Day program. Nobody knew I was coming. I just happened to be there visiting the temple. I went to this Holy Day program, and lo and behold, the music they were singing was from the gathering. And I was shocked. And I said, well, and afterwards I went to the people who were organizing the program, and I said, where did you get this music? It was wonderful. And they said, oh, this is the music we use all the time. It moves us. And I found out it came from somebody who was serving at the World Center and participated in the Carmel gospel singers, learned the music, and then brought it back to their community. So this idea that the culture can be changed as a result of the influence of people who really become spiritually empowered is very real. But this idea of a humble posture of learning, this idea of selfless service, is something, this being involved, immersed in the Word of God, these are all things that we are talking about today and have been talking about. And it's just a wonderful opportunity for the gathering to share its own experience of that. Well, friends, I think it's time that we call this period of time to an end. We're going to see you all tomorrow for another presentation, and then again on Sunday. So friends, thank you so much. I'm going to share something right now, and I hope you enjoy it and bid you farewell. Let me just try to get this up quickly. Allow up our friends.
B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky? Yo, it's the B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky? I flip the page to another dimension of life. Smother your section with the message that was sent from the light. Progressive revelation sneak up like a thief in the night. But when you're taking a nap, there ain't no greater joy than me to put my faith in a rap. Yo, I'm just stating the facts. I keep it hot like a ghetto block. Think about that. I'm here to patch up this hip-hop game like fix it flat. Got lyrics to put you on the edge, lyrics to get you back. EBT, kick down doors and lay down laws. Fly through 7 valleys, then it's on to the ball. Dropping jaws, wildin' like it's God we solve. It take time to digest, cause the writings is raw. Oh no, not door knockers again. Don't get it from a stranger, just call up a friend. In the scriptures under fire and gold, we find gems. Fire test the gold test the men. I put my soul in every line that I'm putting up in the sky. Inviting Babylon to dinner, I'm cooking up his demise. You can get it how you want it, however that you decide. I'm looking up in your eyes, you looking kinda surprised, like you saw the sun illumine the horizon of Africa. Never let the wicked man's propaganda capture ya. Spit a little wisdom, now the system is after ya. You don't want that kind of stigmatism attached to ya. Yo, where's the black flag? Raise it to the sky. Synchronize the steps while we watching it fly. Come on. Glance at the old world, yeah, we watching it die. The clock ticking, don't miss your chance to ask why. The fire's raging, blazing the new course. Come on. We rise from the smoke, Baji, the guiding force. To write the new chapter, divine preparation for the Abha hereafter. We have to raise the cry through the rafters. Ya Bahá'í-ullah in the name of the master. Yo, cause it's the B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky? Yo, it's the B-A-H-A-I. H-A-I, why rule the ground? I can rule the sky. Now it's the thin line between the righteous and obscene. You ain't got to like my team, but you gotta respect the fact that we doing our thing, putting our faith up on the map. This is EBT, so put the word in the street. If you ain't coming with the real, better stay away from me. If you too industry, you better stay way back. I ain't spitting that, gotta get my money tight rap. I'm trying to give an education to you funny type cats. Sitting back, trying to study your facts. I come to this conclusion, they don't exist. Your style's illusion, while law's proven you in a world of confusion. I'm meditating on the way to give you this fusion. For every person winning, there's a million that's losing. Kidnap the covenant breakers, give them contusions. My music is like a remedy for those who use it, so be cautious. Take heed and move flawless. Yo, it's the B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky? Yo, it's the B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky? Yo, it's the B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky? Yo, it's the B-A-H-A-I. Why rule the ground when I can rule the sky?
Thank you, friends. We appreciate all of you and hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. You can register at Greenacre, greenacre.news. See you all tomorrow.